So we started the chapter of namaz, and we were on the regarding those things which are the pillars of namaz. So we started that, inshallah, or the preconditions of namaz itself. So inshallah, last lesson we finished on page 74. We'll start in 74 today. So far what we've done is, we've gone through the chapters of namaz, wudu, tahara, so everything about purification is completed. And we started on, about 2 lessons ago, we started about the chapter of namaz. So far the timings of namaz, the makruh times, and so on has been covered, and the adhan and the iqamah, which we did last lesson. So starting on the conditions and the shara'it of namaz. So Bismillah ar-Rahman, page 74. They say it's not valid to begin the prayer without having fulfilled its conditions. So before we even start the namaz, there's certain conditions that need to be complete. If they are not complete, the namaz is invalid. So it's important that those conditions are fulfilled. So namely, the first one, number 1, being in the state of wudu or ghusl. So if ghusl was fard on you, it's obviously compulsory that you do your ghusl before you do namaz. If you need to only do wudu, then your wudu needs to be done. This is the first condition. And for minor ritual impurity that refers to wudu, a major ritual impurity refers to when you need to do ghusl. So they both linked to the wudu and ghusl. Even though when, for example, a person woke in the morning, his body is clean, in terms of filth, he's clean, he's pure, but he just needs to do his wudu. So there's nothing that's filthy on him, but he just doesn't have wudu. That's called ritual purification, right? And then the physical purification is got to do with the filth itself. So the first one is you need to make sure you have your wudu, or if you need to do ghusl, then your ghusl needs to be done as well. So that's the first condition before you start the namaz. Second one is that your body, your clothes, and the place you're going to read namaz, those 3 places need to be pure from the filth. So body would be if, for example, we had a cut on our hand and there was flowing blood that moves from the wound, from the cut itself, that's considered impure. So if that dripped onto your kapre, onto your clothes, then your clothes are impure as well now. Now your clothes are impure, and your hand or your skin, wherever the blood has moved to, that part of the body is impure as well. So you need to make sure that you wash those that impurity from your clothes and also from your skin as well. In terms of the place of prayer, because sometimes this is why we have a musalla, for example, at home, even though technically you don't need a musalla. Like, so if you, for example, in your house you don't wear any shoes around the house, your bedroom, mainly upstairs, normally in the bedrooms, you have carpet, and that carpet is, Islamically talking, that carpet is pure and clean. No shoes are on there, no filth has gone on there, unless you have pets and animals that it could be possible their urine and stuff like that, or cows or something. But generally speaking, most households, the carpet is pure and clean. Hence, you can still read namaz without a musalla on those places. So you can read your salah anywhere on earth, on the earth itself, that has no filth on there. Yeah, so the reason why we put the musalla is just in case there is, at least we know that we're reading namaz in a pure, clean place. That's one of the wisdoms of having the musalla. But generally there is no need. The main condition is that the floor or the place of prayer be clean. Hence that's why, you know, when people are praying namaz outside, sometimes you might see someone just praying directly on the concrete. If you can't see any physical filth on the floor, like a football pitch for example, there won't be no physical filth on there, right? If there is, you'll see the urine on there, or any other means, different types of filth, like vomit, blood, excretion, anything like that. If those things are not visible to your eye, or and you are fully aware that it's clean, you can actually just read namaz like that on the concrete, on the grass, or wherever you are. So you don't really need a musalla. But obviously the best way is if you have access to a musalla, if not a jacket or something, because you're 100% sure those things are clean, then you can put them down. But also connected to this is when you say the place of prayer, it's talking about the place that touches the ground. So the place where you put your forehead, your face, your arms, your knees and your feet. So imagine you did sajda on a carpet or something and there was some blood on the carpet. But that wasn't where your face, hands, knees or feet touched, then that namaz will be valid. Right? Because you're not doing sajda on the filth, you're not touching that filth. But if those limbs that are touching the ground were to touch that part of the carpet, then you prayed on a filthy place which could invalidate the salah depending on how much there is. And we've done this in the last chapter of our purification, how much of filth is excused. And we said if it's major filth, then a size of a 50p coin is considered too much. So if it's 50p coin or more, like blood, vomit, urine, then you can't read namaz in those clothes. Or if that's on your body, you can't read your namaz unless you washed it. Same with the place of prayer. But if it's less than that, and that's the only option you have, then you can read your namaz like that. So the first was you have your wudu or ghusl. Second, clothes, body and the place needs to be pure from these things which are impure. Third is covering the aura, covering the private parts. For a man, technically speaking, it's from the belly button to the bottom of the knees. So from the bottom of your navel to the bottom of your knees. So your navel, your belly button is not included in your aura. So if you want to be like, imagine someone has less clothes. They can technically read namaz, you could say in 3/4. Technically the salah for a man will still be valid. But if you have clothes and you purposely don't wear them, then that is guna. You're sinful for not adopting modesty before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But obviously there's certain scenarios where, and like we know from, for example, even ihram of Hajj, when you wear the ihram, you take your arm out, so hence if someone is reading salah, even at that time when they read the namaz, taking the arm out, people leave the arm out and they read the namaz like that. Taking the arm out in ihram, that's only the first 3 rounds of the tawaf. The rest, you cover yourself up again. So when you're reading namaz, you should be covered. But generally, if you're praying like that, even with the ihram like chadar on, for example, if those people who do rafa yadayn, when they do that, the chest or the body, stomach will get exposed in the ihram as well. So you technically know the namaz is valid and like that. Or with, for example, with t-shirt on, sleeveless top on, but it's against the adab of namaz. If you have clothes to cover yourself, you cover yourself completely. Then if you don't, like for example, you've gone to play football and you're on the pitch, you're wearing a t-shirt, and people say, oh, in namaz doesn't happen, your arms are showing. That's wrong. That's the only kapra you have, that's the only clothes you have at that time. It's salah time, salah is fard, you pray your salah in a shirt. But if you have a jacket, you put your jacket on, then you pray your salah. So this is important to keep in mind, the adab as well. One is fatwa, what's allowed, and the other one is taqwa, what should be done. Right? So if, and for example, someone say, reading namaz without a hat is perfectly fine. But this is against the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, he would cover his hair, so you should cover your hair. Unless you've gone out and you don't have your hat with you, then you got a valid reason to pray your salah without a hat. Now if you have a hat, you're at home, and then you're still not doing it out of laziness, then that's neglecting the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We should come against in sul and the bad manners, etiquettes towards the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So the aura for a man, the minimum requirement that needs to be covered is from the belly button to the bottom of the knees. And for a woman, it will be her entire body apart from her face, hands and her feet. So the rest of her entire body will still need to be covered during the salah. They also mention here like a slave girl which don't exist now anyway. so we don't need to do that. But generally for a woman, only face, arms and feet need to be exposed. The rest is needs to be covered, and it's compulsory for her to cover the rest of her body. Number 4, facing the Qibla. There's a slight leeway that we have. If you can see the Kaaba with your eyes, then 100% you need to face the Kaaba. If you can't see the Kaaba, like for example here in the UK, now imagine the Kaaba is directly in front of me. I have a 45-degree leeway in the UK, or wherever you are away from Makkah Sharif where you can't see the Kaaba, for example. So imagine the Kaaba is directly in front of me. I have 45-degree and a 45-degree, so it'll be a right angle. So 45 and 45 would make a right angle. So I'll have this leeway of, hence, you know, some places, like even this mosque, if you technically check the musallas, it might slightly be off from 100%. It might be, it might not be. But some mosques, for example, if the musalla was going to be slightly bent like this, and then the stuff gets cut, doesn't it? So what they do is, they take the leeway in consideration, and they put the musalla slightly, so everyone, the lines can be. That's why you might notice some mosques that are not purpose-built. Generally purpose-built mosques, obviously they just check or build it like that, right? But those mosques that are not purposely built, and then you might notice that the why happen to be the musallas are always straight, is it might not 100% be towards the Qibla, but it be slightly, 10 degrees, 15 degrees to the right or left, so they just straighten it out, so the musalla inside can be straightened out and it's easier inside the building. But generally, because we can't see the Kaaba Sharif, then we have a 45-degree angle to the left and 45 to the right, making a 90 degrees altogether, a leeway from the Kaaba itself. So it won't be 90, imagine that's the Kaaba, it won't be 90 up to there. It's only 45 that way, 45 that way. That's the only leeway you have, and if you can't see the Kaaba. So you should obviously firstly you should take an educated guess if you can't find that Qibla. I think they might cover that anyway. I'll get into that if they don't, inshallah. But keep that in mind, you have that slight leeway as well. Then number 5, you have to pray the namaz when the prayer time has entered. You can't start the salah before the prayer time. If you read the salah before the prayer time, even 1 minute, so Zohar starts at 12 o'clock, you started Zohar at 11:59, that salah is invalid. Even if you were guessing and you thought, I think it started, but you weren't too confident. Now that's obviously your own personal, you know your own circumstances. Sometimes you're like confident, it's definitely started, I can help. Yeah, it was about 12 o'clock, but I know it started though. Then you ready namaz. If you realize afterwards, and you 100%, like 90% sure that it started, then it's fine. But if you started namaz and you thought that, it might not have started, but I'll read it anyway. Now you read, even if you find that it's correct, you still need to repeat that prayer again. Why? Because you weren't sure and you still read the namaz in the wrong time, basically. But even though it was the right time. So you have to make sure that the prayer time has entered. So, like sometimes, not sometimes, this almost happens every day. The kids come in for Maghrib namaz, right? We do the Jamaat here, Azan happens, Jamaat happens. They live on the other side of Luton and they walk in straight after the Jamaat, like, I read at home. Yeah. And I was like, how could you read Maghrib at home? It just started like 5 minutes ago. And no, I read at, what time did it start? Like 4 o'clock. I read at 4:01 and I'm here 4:05. But they try this, but generally you can't start pray the salah before the prayer time enters, so keep that in mind. And if you did do that, then you need to read that namaz again. Number 6 is having the intention. Intention is from the heart. Normally that we learn in the namaz and dua book, or elders have learned, we need ki this namaz padna haas wasta Allah Ta'ala de 4 rakat namaz for this, or the English one, I make the intention to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do the Urdu one, don't you? You're the only guy I know from the English to do the Urdu one. That's why you start laughing. Yeah. But generally, intention is of the heart. So you need to make the intention that the salah you're reading at that time, the intention and the prayer needs to be connected. There's two ways with this. One is literally connected the way we do, most people do. They stand on the musalla, iqamat happens, zan happens, and then you still hear people say, that's one way, right? Even though that verbally saying it is not necessary, and it's not even, that's why you get some people who speak against it. They say the bid'ah to say or make the intention to verbally say, they say it's a bid'ah, it's against the sunnah. Even though the sunnah is not to verbally say, it's not proven in the sunnah to verbally say, but normally what happens in the ulama say, it's still okay to say verbally. Why? Because it gets you in the vibe of reading namaz. You're reminding yourself again, I'm going to read my four fard to worship Allah. So anything that's distracting you, you're kind of cutting that off. But technically you don't need to say it verbally. As long as when you stand on the musalla, your intention is to perform whatever prayer you're about to do. So if, for example, it's the 2 fard of Fajr Salat, in your heart you're fully convinced that I am about to pray my 2 fard of Suffa-tul-Fajr, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm facing the Qibla, but you're not saying any of this. You just got up, stood up, Allah. But all this needs to be made, the intention, reminding yourself in your heart and mind what you're doing, which namaz you're reading, before you do the takbir. Some people, they say Allahu Akbar, and they like remind themselves, okay, I'm sure reading the 2 fard. No, that won't count. If that happens and you're confirming afterwards, then your intention is wrong. You need to start again because you haven't started. Another thing is that, what does it mean that the namaz and the intention needs to be joined together? One is like literally what we do, right? I make the intention to read so and so. So we know it's connected. Another thing is, as long as between the intention and the namaz, the prayer, you haven't done something that contradicts the namaz. For example, you made the intention and then you start speaking to someone in your house work. Now you've done something disconnected to namaz, your intention is invalid, you need to make a fresh intention. Or someone said, I have this kajur, you made the intention, you ate the food, now you ate, eating is against namaz, so hence you need to renew your intention. But for example, you made the intention at home, I'm going to pray my Zuhr namaz in Jamaat, you read your sunnah at home, you came here, now the intention was made at your front door, but the only thing you did was walk from your house straight to the masjid, straight to the musalla, no chatting to people, no distracting, no going shopping on the way, just came for the trip. Now the intention from your house and the walk into the masjid is all part of you in the intention, because that doesn't contradict the namaz. So now if you just came and the Jamaat was starting, you were Allahu Akbar, but you only left your house really in namaz Jamaat, that intention is still connected, okay? Because you haven't done something that contradicts the namaz. Same with, for example, that you got up to read your Zuhr namaz, you're about to read, you remembered, oh, I haven't got wuzu. You made the intention, everything, and you remembered, I don't have wudu. You went, done wudu, came back straight to the musalla, you said Allahu Akbar. That intention still counts because the wudu is connected to the namaz, that's why. But generally, the best way is, each time you're about to read something, remind yourself again technically, and then be more focused in the prayer as well. Another side note for intention, this is for the farz of namaz, so for the fard of Zuhr, Fajr, all these, you 100% need to know that what you're praying, which namaz it is, which fard you're reading and so on. For nafil namaz, you don't need to have any intention like that. For nafil namaz, you can technically just have the intention. You know, like in the namaz book, you go nafil namaz, isha. You don't need to technically have the isha aspect to it. Because nafil is open ibadat. So you could just have the intention of doing nafil, Allahu Akbar. And that's it. Why? Because nafil is optional ibadat which can be done at any permissible time. So you don't need like is for Zuhr namaz or Isha namaz or Maghrib namaz and stuff like that. Same with other kinds of nafil ibadat of namaz. I think they mentioned something here. 208. So they mentioned that for Tarawih as well. Because obviously you hear Tarawih, there's 20 rakats. You don't need to on each one say 2 rakat. Because Tarawih technically it comes under nafal. Like I don't think I mentioned to this class, but anything apart from fard and wajib, everything else is, broadly speaking, is considered nafal. Yes, so sunnah muakkada, sunnah ghair muakkada. In fiqh aspects, all of it is considered nafal. So either you have a fard worship or you have a nafal worship. Yeah? So that'll be the two broad categories. Then you'll have inside the fard, you have fard ayn, your personal fard, 5 daily prayers, or fard kifaya, a community fard like a Suffa-tul-islam is farz on the community. If some people do it, it's fine. And then you have wajib will come underneath that, like the witr namaz. Then under the nafal, you'll have sunnah muakkada, sunnah ghair muakkada, and then mustahab, right? Yeah, or mubah. That all comes under nafal ibadat. So technically, anything apart from the fard and your wajib things will come under nafal. So nafal, you don't need to have like 100% that this nafal is for this namaz. Just read the nafal as you go, inshallah. As long as the intention is the true nafal to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next, the last one they mentioned is the tahrima, the Allahu Akbar. Even though this is linked to the namaz itself. So these are the conditions that need to, and the takbir, it needs to be done with your tongue. You have to say the words Allahu Akbar. It can't be that, you know what a lot of people do is they're reading namaz and they're just standing there like this. But in their mind they say Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdi. They're reading this in their mind, right? But they're just standing there with their lips closed. That salah is invalid. Your tongue has to move. If your tongue is not moving and lips are not moving, then you're not reading. It's called thinking, reflecting. That's not called reading. So hence, that salah will be invalid. Same way if you do Allahu Akbar and just. But in your mind you did say Allahu Akbar. That means you thought it, you never said it. So saying the words, uttering the words, is also a condition as well. So they mention here the tahrima, the opening Allahu Akbar, the place of which is the tongue. And in the previous one they mentioned about intention, the niyat, they say the place of the niyat is the heart. Yeah, so the intention is done in the heart and the recitation is done on the tongue. So you have to make sure you say it with your tongue. And here they mention the same thing that I mentioned before, that the intention and the namaz, it has to be connected. You shouldn't have to do anything that's disconnected. So I already covered that one anyway. So these are the main conditions that need to be met before the namaz. But now they're saying there might be certain scenarios where you can't apply that. So for example, he says some of the above conditions are overlooked if there's a valid excuse. So they mentioned what? Wudu, and your first one was you need wudu or ghusl. Imagine you got no water, so then you go to an alternative, which is tayammum. Right? So the second one they mentioned is that your body is free from any filth. Imagine you don't have anything to remove that filth, and you only got impure clothes, you got nothing else. Then what do? Either you pray naked or you pray with those filthy clothes. And the ulama mentioned you read the namaz in those impure clothes. That's the better option, right? And there is a masla here, but it's not in the book, but I know they mention in the other books. If you don't have any clothes, how do you pray namaz? You sit down and read namaz. You don't stand up and read namaz. You might find yourself in a situation that you don't have enough clothes to cover your private parts, for example, right? Then you don't do ruku and sujood because you're fully exposing yourself. So you read like at-tahiyyat style, you sit down and you read your namaz all sitting down. So you won't even go fully down for sajda and stuff like that. Why? Because you're fully exposing yourself. So the namaz will be done in the most modest way possible. Another thing they mentioned, that sometimes you might have access to the water. Why? There's a fear of an enemy, or there might be something that's stopping you from facing the Qibla. So sometimes you might find yourself in a situation that because you have to face the Kaaba, right? So there might be a situation that something is stopping you from facing the Kaaba. So if there is something that's stopping you from facing the Kaaba, then you're allowed, due to that valid reason, to face otherwise, or the direction which is the most possible. For example, this could happen, imagine someone is on jihad, and that's like a fine example, but like the enemy is in front of you and the Qibla is that direction. Now, if you turn your back on them, what's going to happen? You're going to get attacked. Right? So you face the most secure possible safe direction. Or it could be that you're in a place where there's another extreme example is a lion there or something, right? And or anything that's dangerous. It could be anything like a bear or something. And you know that if you're looking away, you could possibly be attacked and your life could be in danger. Hence, you can face the most safest direction where you feel safe and secure as well, and then read your namaz.
Could you, in that time, could you delay or miss your namaz?
There's no reason to. If you go away out of there, for example, right? Imagine you got like I don't know, there's a lion there is gonna eat you apart. There's two options. One, if you stay there, you're gonna get eaten. As number two, you're gonna run away. If you run away, obviously you're free now, you go pray namaz properly. But if you're stuck there, there's still two options. Either you can be stuck there and you're in danger, but you can still manage, because you're still gonna be there, or you're gonna get eaten up, right? So if you stand in one place, either you're gonna get eaten up or you're gonna be safe, right? So you rather just read namaz, because either way you're gonna get eaten up or you're gonna be safe. So you rather read namaz. So that even in jihad, there's no excuse. You still have to read namaz, even if you're about to die. Like for example, you're on your deathbed and namaz time starts. Namaz is still farzi. If namaz zone starts and you're about to die, for example, and you're on your deathbed and the prayer time starts, you have to read the namaz as farzi. There's no excuse.
Say you're praying for you and then like something harmful comes in front of you, say a snake or something. Are you like breaking the law?
Yeah. So if there's like something like that could happen, for in your case, the snake in mine is like cat, right? But
like if you're in Pakistan or something like that.
no, so yeah, if you're praying your salah and something dangerous comes, sometimes it might be like, it might not be dangerous, that people overreact as well, yeah? But if, it depends on if you're like, I'm scared of cats, so I went to Ustad Malik's house to read namaz and to see his family, and we started namaz and I went to Sajda, the cat jumped up on top of me, right on my face. Yeah, but sometimes you have to, I got like about 4 different cats, but sometimes you just have to ride it out. But if you can't, like a snake or something, then you have that leeway of breaking the namaz, and because your life's at risk. Yeah, but if you know it's not gonna harm you to the extent that your life's at risk and just something there, then you still continue praying. You don't have like a good reason to break your namaz. Next, it mentions here. They also mention here about a person who's unwell and he can't face the Kaaba. He can't face towards the Qibla. Now, this happens often in people who are hospitalized, for example, or they're bedbound because of their injuries, and they can't face the Kaaba. What do? Then they pray in the direction which is most possible for them. So, if a person is bedbound, then he relies on someone to move the bed or move him, then obviously they just pray in the direction that they're in. Okay, so they don't have that responsibility of getting up, facing the Qibla is taken away from that person. They just pray the Salah in the direction that they are able to do it in. Another thing it mentions here is they say if one does not know the direction of the Qibla, he should make a reasonable, educated guess, which is known as tahari, and pray in that direction. And this is very common, obviously. You can't out somewhere and it's namaz time. And this could be anywhere. You don't have to even be far for this. Like, you could be in the park playing football and you realize, okay, there's 10 minutes left for Maghrib namaz to finish. I need to quickly get my Maghrib in, or the next namaz is about to start and I'm about to miss namaz. So by the time I go home, namaz is going to be finished. By the time I get to the masjid, namaz is going to be finished. Now you have to do namaz in the park. And so you take your educated guess. If people are around you, you ask them. If you got those Qibla compasses or whatever on your phone, then you ask them, which are a lot of times wrong for some reason. But generally from the UK, it's I forgot. It's 100 and I need to double check. But it's I'll check that for you anyway. This is I think it's 116. I need to double check. But it's about 116 degrees. Wherever you are in the UK, it's about the same average because you've got the leeway. So you don't really need a Qibla compass in the UK. You know, the mobile apps and all that. A lot of them, they don't be legit anyway. 1 minute they're facing over there, 1 minute. But if you just use a normal, like any compass that you get on an iPhone, like an iPhone is built with a compass. So if you've got an iPhone, you just take the normal compass and remove the magnet you have on your. You know, if you have like a magnet that you have to stick your phone, you have to remove that because that misaligns it. And if you remove that, it's the same degree, 120 I think it is. I'll double check that for you. It's the same everywhere in the whole UK, 116, 120. If you keep it around there, wherever you go in the UK, it's fine. But generally, you have to take an educated guess or use your intellect. Okay, sunrise from there, sunset is there, the Qibla is normally in towards the east, southeast, you could say, slightly off. Yeah. So then you, now if you can see the sun setting on that side and you knew you came up from there, then most likely the Qibla will be towards the sunrise direction, right? But slightly towards the east, you know that's the west now, when sun is setting. And then you, obviously you have to, but if you thought, you know what, we don't know, just read any direction, then the salah is invalid, it doesn't count. And even if, for example, you took an educated guess and you read namaz that way, and then you went home and you're like, yeah, you just read it, we faced that way, and the person's like, no, that's wrong, it was the other way. You read completely the opposite direction, then namaz is fine as well. Why? Because you never just guessed it, you never fluked it. You used your best knowledge, the best resources you had possible, even if that means your friend who's equally as bright as you, right? And then, but you both used your mind with the mosque that way, and you guessed it like, oh, you know, that mosque they face that way. If you imagine the street going that way, I think this way anyway, and you've done your best go, then it's fine, your namaz is fine. But if you're reading already, imagine you're praying in the park, and I knew that it's that way, and you're reading the namaz that way, and I came and I said to you the Qibla is that way. Why are you reading and you know that I'm telling you that, then you took an educated guess, then you, in your namaz, you turn that way and you carry on praying. Or sometimes that happens, like, you know, you go to a relative's house and they say face that corner over there, and you go, you pray, start praying the other corner. They're like, man, that's the whole corner, what are you doing? And you know, this, then you can turn in your namaz because you were misunderstood, so you just turn in your namaz in the right direction and you carry on praying. You don't need to break your namaz and start all over again. So you can do that. Yeah, so that's if you don't know the Qibla direction. You take an educated guess. If you're wrong, your namaz is fine. If you didn't take an educated guess and you just couldn't bother, then your namaz is not fine, even if you got it right. Yes, even if you find out later I was right, but how dare you just do it without bother? So you need to still read the namaz again as well.
I've got a question. This happened to us recently, you know. We had a mafia in our house, and I had to lead the namaz. So leading the namaz, there was quite a few people behind us. And what happened is that the first 2-3 safa inside the rooms, they were okay, you know. But the people in the other room, they were facing a little bit on the off the Qibla direction. What about their namaz? Would it be done under the imam because he was being?
That depends if they are within the 45 degrees or not.
Slightly off. For example, if it's at this corner, they were slightly to the left side.
So it depends if they were within the 45 degrees limit, then the salah is valid.
So you know,
if they weren't, then they need to repeat it.
So when the 45 degrees, does it start from the
45 from the actual Qibla?
From the Qibla to the right hand side or from the
both right and left.
Right and left.
So altogether it'll be 90 degrees.
It goes 90 degrees.
Yeah, so 90 degrees is a complete right angle, right? This is 90 degrees. So if these are 90 degrees, the Qibla will be here. So you'll have the leeway of, so you'll have that 45 degrees this way. So this will be full 90, wouldn't it? From here to here, right? So you'll have 45 would be there. So this same right angle, if I put it like this, that'll be like this. And the Qibla will be in the middle, so the 45 will be here. So if I was to do like this, then that'll make a right angle. So you just turn it and make the Qibla in the middle. So you have 45 this way, 45 this way. So if you're praying at 50 on one side, then Salah is invalid. Because you're off from the Qibla now. Because you already had that leeway and you're already off. Now you're off, so you're not facing the Qibla. So those people will need to repeat the namaz again. Technically. But you can check though, like sometimes, because to you it might seem, imagine right, 100% here, like the Qibla is here, right? And you have 45 this way and 45 this way. But at home, you already might be 30, like there's a 30 this way. So technically, on this side, you only have 15 leeway from the Imam. But on this side, now they got like 60 leeway. Because the actual Qibla was here and you're already off. You get it?
Because they technically, those people, they live a couple of doors away from us. But because we're in the same street, so they should know the direction. But maybe due to arrogance or whatever, they were in the other room. And then it was obviously when we said Allahu Akbar, and then we were leading the namaz, we couldn't go and check on them at the back, you know. So the next room, they were saying that they are a little bit off.
But if they
should
the 45,
they should have knew, because they were in the.
So like sometimes what happens is like these are genuine errors that happen in people's house. This is one of the first things they should check is you know, the Qibla in the house when you move into a house. Because I went to a relative's house and they've been there for about 2 years now. They're like, yeah, I said, where's the Qibla? But before I could even ask them, they said just read the namaz there. I went there, took my own out, I started checking out. So I read the namaz facing the right way, and they came in and they're like, the wrong pari is this way. And I was like, hang on a minute, you guys reading wrong all this time? Check your Qibla compass here as well. And then I showed them and it was actually this way. And they were like, nah, you're wrong. I said, Mawlana Sahib is this way. I said, chalo, carry on then. Some people they don't want to know. And because they've been doing it 2 years, like I don't know, 2 years they're doing it wrong. That's a genuine error. Those namaz will still be valid because to their knowledge that was the right direction. But now that they've been corrected and they still carried on, and they were like, you're wrong, you don't know. And then I said,
because it wasn't because it's not supposed to be an educated guess. So isn't it upon every single person in the household, or the eldest, or the, you know?
So normally that's what
parent or something.
they get a zimmar person to like check. Like for example, in your house, like because you have children, you'd be the responsible person. So Qasim won't be responsible to say that are you doing the right direction, because his husna zan will be that you've already checked, you've already sussed that out, right? But sometimes it just happens like you get caught out. Like it might be a guest that might be checking for his comfort. Like I was at someone else's house because they didn't tell me, so they said go read namaz, and then I felt a bit shy to go ask them which way is, so I didn't research myself. And when they walked in and they're like, this guy's really wrong, and then I was like, I just checked, can you check your double check me? And they're like, Nana tara phone, I said, get your phone. And then they checked it, it was right again, where I was doing it. They're like, nah, something wrong with the phone. Is this way? This way now. But that's something that happens. So, but as long as you're within that leeway, is fine. Next is to mention, if one has many containers of water, with more than half of them containing purified water, and has doubt which one of them is containing purified water, he should also make an educated guess and then use the water in that container. So this is going back to the chapter of water when we study about water. Any water that is used can't be used again for wudu. So this also applies, you know, if you have a balti of water, right? And you, like for example, you have if you still use a bathtub, for example, and you have the water balti there. If your hand hasn't been washed and you put your arm inside the balti, all the water is considered used. Right? Because you put your hand in the whole item, in the whole balti. Technically, you can't do wudu and ghusl in the water again. You can still clean yourself out, but to make your ghusl and wudu complete, you have to use water which is unused. Hence, that the hukum is always, when you study the chapter of purification, they say, before you put your hands into the bucket or whatever, wash your hands first. Your hand, get a cup or something, wash your hands. Once your hands are purified, now because you might be using your hands to purify, right? So hence, your hand is the tool now. Now you can use your hand to take the water out, extract the water. So if you're using the jug and your hand goes inside, it's fine. Why? Because you've already purified the hand, and now it's the tool that you're going to use to take the water out. But if you're just getting a normal hand, that you need to do ghusl and you put your arm inside the bucket, now you made the whole bucket used. Right? So this is important to keep that in mind as well. So you take the water out, wash your hands, or you because they're the tools to purify yourself, and then you can use the hand, and even if it goes inside the bucket, it's fine. So that's what they're mentioning here. That's what they kind of indicated to you. You might have some water that is used, right? Like for example, it might be used for cooking. It was spare water. Now the water's nature has changed. You can't do wudu with that. And now there's 3-4 buckets there, and one of them you know is the impure one. It's not impure, but it's used. And 3 are the clean ones. You take an educated guess. That's a bit less. So I think that's the one you use with. And then you use the pure one. That's fine. But obviously, if you don't take an educated guess, you just say grab any, and then it's not fine. Your wudu won't be valid. And the next one is the same thing. So if you have a few clothes and you know one of them have some filth on there and you're not sure which one it was, right? Then you take an educated guess and you wear the one that you think that is the cleanest one, and you pray in that clothes. It's just mentioned about the water one and the clothes one. If they're both doubtful, won't they? So there's some pure water, some impure water. Now you took educated guess because it was the shore, you used the wrong one. Or the clothes, some clothes were clean, some were impure. Now you took educated guess but you used the wrong one. If you come to your knowledge that actually I used the wrong water or the wrong clothes, then you need to repeat that namaz. As opposed to the rule that we have for the Qibla, if you took an educated guess in the wrong direction, it doesn't matter, namaz happened. But the clothes and the wudu one, that namaz will need to be repeated again. So these are the 6 preconditions of namaz, which everyone is forced for everyone to know, and you should know them in detail as well. And you know when we often hear people misapply this saying, the deen is easy, the Islam is very easy to apply, right? And then you Mawlis make it hard and this and that. People say that to me all the time, right? That you make your life hard, and it's easy if you know the rules. So like for example, we don't know where the Qibla is. For an ignorant person, their ease means, you don't need to read namaz, I don't know where the Qibla is. I don't have the water, I don't need to read namaz, I can't do wuzu. Ease means you don't have water, the ease is you have knowledge to do tayammum. Or I don't have enough clothes to comb myself, the ease would be how to read namaz according to the Sharia without any clothes or with less clothes. If your clothes are impure, the place is impure, how can I read namaz? Is it valid with these kind of clothes or not? I don't know the Qibla direction. The knowledge would be, the ease would be, you take an educated guess, you read the namaz. If you're wrong, it's still fine. But it doesn't mean that ease would be that, I don't know the Qibla direction, so I just read anyway. This is the mercy of Allah. Yeah, so like for example, a musafir, a traveler, people start, Allah says, you can shorten your prayer if you're a musafir, a traveler. And I had a relative there, unfortunately. We went to Pakistan, and I was in his house in Pakistan, right? And I'm reading for full namaz because I live down the road. So I'm like, I'm at home because this is my, one is your watan where you live and one is your other house, like the way, like for example, I commute to Luton, I live here, but when I go to Birmingham, that's also my house. I have my mom and dad. So I read my full namaz, I've got no reason to shorten it. And this person who has moved to Pakistan and he lives there, and he's like, what you do? Read short namaz. I'm like, you've been here 6 years? And he goes, no, I'm a traveler. My original home is the UK. Oh, subhanallah. You know, people just try to make any excuse to apply the leave after deen, but there's conditions how to read qasr namaz. Just because you are mentally thinking, I'm in Pakistan, I'm living here for a few years, check it out, or how am I originally, how am I settled here yet? Just because you're mentally not settled, it doesn't mean that according to the Sharia, it's 15 days. If your niyat is more than 15 days, then you're a person who's a resident. No matter, even if you go to, I don't know, to Africa somewhere on a holiday, if you make the intention that I'm going to live in that place for more than 15 days, you become a resident of the first place, you read your full namaz. So, but if you go from one house to another house, like we would do, like for example back home, if you go and you go to our normal Quran and even the place where our mom and dad's home, basically, right? Yes, that's our house, so we need to read our full namaz there. There's no excuse. But on the journey, you can cut your namaz. So these are people who misapply the rulings of the Sharia and they try to fix these anyway. These are major blunders, which make the namaz invalid as well. You know, like for example, and these are a few common things that are very common is that when you're traveling, you don't need to keep a roza. So what these guys do is they got the roza, they wake up in the morning with the fast, they're like, boys, let's go on a mission to Birmingham, and then they break the roza. Oh, we're traveling to Birmingham, so we don't need to keep a roza. They literally do that. It doesn't mean like that. It means at the time of Sehri, when the fast is about to start, are you a traveler or not? If you're already a traveler, I'm already on the motorway, now I have the option. When the Sehri time is about to finish, and the last minute, it depends if you're a traveler at that last minute or not. If I am a traveler, I got the option. Shall I keep it or shall I not? Chalo, I'll leave it. I got to leave it. These guys keep the roza, wake up, do a mission in the daytime, and they break the roza. Why? Because I'm traveling. That's easy these days. Because if I'm going to do 56 miles, I can just say, lads, roza's hard, let's go for a drive. 1 hour, break the roza, come back. Yeah? But this is a mockery of the deen, and these guys do that, and these YouTube movies do that, and they're like, Akhi, this, and they use one to Arabic words and make you feel like this is from Quran and Hadith. Akhi, wallahi, deen is so easy, mashallah, subhanallah, you know, we're travelers, and they make you vlogs of this, and they're just thinking how uneducated, how ignorant they are, and they just jump in the car, they're going on a mission. Brothers are going to do some da'wah to London, like Speaker's Corner, and Musafirs in the month of Ramadan, and they're breaking the roza. I'm making a video of this. We're having a burger, mashallah, it's permissible. This is the mercy of Allah, and they're breaking the roza. You know, so you think about when you're applying these rules, that you need to have knowledge of how to apply them. Even like journey to namaz, like, and someone said. And this happens now, it's not about like Sunni, Wahhabi, or anything like that. In most cases, Wahhabis who is free mixing these, but generally the Sunni young British imams who try to get social media following, they do this as well. Like one brother was asked, can you combine two namaz because you think you might miss the second one? Yeah, chalo, theek hai, Zohr time reads Zohr and Asr, he goes to him. And you know, they write these question and answer on Instagrams, and people do these, right? It's common things. People ask the Sheikh, and the Sheikh's like, any questions, I'm free, post to me now. And these young Maulvis are writing these wrong answers, and it's not allowed. So stay away from these guys. Stick to your fiqh book, and if you can't find the answer, then phone me. I'll find it for you. Tell me what page it is, inshallah. But if you have any questions, generally the first thing you should do is to improve your own knowledge as well. Is okay, we've covered this. I can't remember it. Even I can't remember things. So what I do is I don't phone my teacher and say what's the answer. I check the books, find it. If I can't find it after I've checked what I've studied, then you drop the message to the teacher. Look, I've checked, I can't find it. Can you just tell me the answer? And so that's the proper way to do it. Because when you're looking for the answer yourself now, that I've done this somewhere about namaz, or if you haven't got the Qibla direction, then when you're checking down, you revise 3-4 other things on the way. Otherwise, you're looking for that, or this is the Namaz time, I can't be there. You read 1-2 lines from here, 1-2 lines from there. So you revise a few other pages as well, a few things that you might have forgotten on the way as well. So it's important that we go back to the book, and this book has all your namaz, zakat, hajj, everything like that, and here so. Always check your book first, and then if you're still not sure, then you ask the teacher, and then that's how you benefit and remember more. Yeah, so it's easy to ask someone Google or something, but I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gives you all the tawfiq to do amal on this, inshallah. So try to memorize these 6 conditions or 7 conditions of namaz in detail as well, inshallah. Ameen. Allahumma barik lana fi dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirah hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiban wa 'amalan mutaqabbala. Allahumma ya munazzil al-barakat. Allah